I'm Nick Westergaard, and this is On Brand, helping you tell your story. My guest this week is Sarah Acton.
I always try and orient around, what is the problem that we're trying to solve for the customer? What is the opportunity that is available for us as a business? And then through that lens, look at how whatever function or resources that I am shepherding can uniquely position us to solve that problem.
Sarah Acton, the Chief Customer Officer at Bill, brings more than 25 years of experience in marketing and brand building work in both consumer and business markets. Prior to Bill, she led both marketing and sales at Athos, a wearables company in the athletic performance space. Sarah was also responsible for global brand oversight during pivotal periods of growth at LinkedIn and consumer marketing leadership at Yahoo. An entrepreneur at heart, Sarah was the owner of a small retail business where she had firsthand experience with the rewards and challenges of running a business. Sarah holds an MBA from Northwestern University, Kellogg School of Management, and a BS in marketing from Tulane University. My interview with Sarah Acton is coming right up. But first,
my dad works in B2B marketing, but I never really knew what that meant. Then one day my dad came by my school for career day and told everyone in my class he was a big ROAS man. Then he just kept saying things like, the bigger the ROAS, the better, over and over. My friends still laugh at me to this day. I think it means calculating a return on ad spend. One thing's for sure, I'll be known as the ROAS man's kid for the rest of my days. Why couldn't you just be a fireman or a lawyer? Why? You ruined my life, Dad.
Not everyone gets B2B, but LinkedIn has the people who do. And with ads on LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people based on job title, industry, likelihood to buy, and more. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
The IKEA Business Network is now open for small businesses and entrepreneurs. Join for free today to get access to interior design services to help you make the most of your workspace, employee well-being benefits to help you and your people grow, and amazing discounts on travel, insurance, and IKEA purchases, deliveries, and more. Take your small business to the next level when you sign up for the IKEA Business Network for free today by searching IKEA Business Network.
Sarah Acton, welcome to On Brand.
Thank you, Nick, for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm excited to chat. It is not every day that a guest has a shiny new title. So I believe when we first started talking, it was Chief Marketing Officer at Bill. And now recently you are Chief Customer Officer. And I'm always interested in the kind of why behind the labels that we use, especially when it comes to the work of branding and marketing. So tell us the backstory of that.
Yes, that's a fantastic place to start. And it is shiny and new. I am just entering into the role, but couldn't be more excited. And really, the inspiration comes from the more as an organization that you can be aligned around the customer and their journey from the very first moment that they come across who you are from an awareness perspective through to how they become a customer and continue to evolve with us. Like the integration of functions within an organization around the customer is incredibly powerful. And that's what I'm stepping in to be able to help us do here at Bill by bringing together the sales and marketing functions into a combined go-to-market. And I think the thing that I am already starting to see, like as most new leaders, you do a listening journey. And just because I've been with the company for 2.5 years, this is a change. And so I want to make sure that I'm digesting all of the amazing insight across the organization. And one of the things that I hear play back from folks across my listening journey is the moments where we aren't as orchestrated as maybe we could be. And just with little tweaks, being able to simplify something for the customer, those are the opportunities I'm super excited about to help our customers and their journey with us.
Well, that's such an important area of focus, and like you said, those small touch points that seem so simple but are easy to miss when you aren't maybe focused or organized the right way, that something like this really can help when it comes to your day to day or how you structure your work, your job. Did that change at all when it comes to this shift in not just title, but focus?
That is a great question. And one of the things that I have always tried to show up as is a business leader first and foremost. I have had representation for the function of marketing, but I've always thought about my job is to think about what is the problem that we're trying to solve for a customer, what is the opportunity that we're trying to create for the business, and then I approach that through the lens of the function, and by virtue of leading a function, the resources and capabilities that I marshal for the organization. And so that business first orientation does not change, but the aperture through which I look through that has broadened to include both sales and marketing. And so I think the thing that one of the things that I'm really excited about, early on in this journey is really looking at how when those two organizations can be combined in service of really delivering the best experience possible for a customer, helping a customer find value faster. That's where I've been oriented. And so, my day to day has, I am still involved in some of the same conversations, but, maybe going up a level and looking at that across both of the organizations to see how we can move faster and be more precise around making that experience for the customer even better.
So you talk about making the experience for the customer better. Say more about what you've learned along your journey about the bill customer.
Our customer is time starved. They are often doing multiple jobs. They are busy trying to move through their own sort of business trajectory, whether that's on a high growth curve or just sort of running their business, but they're looking for solutions to a problem, and that is true of a lot of customers. But I think the thing that makes SMBs so unique and such a pleasure to get to serve is how focused they are on their end goal as a business owner or as somebody in an SMB. These businesses have been started because there's a problem that they are trying to solve in the world that they feel is valuable, is meaningful, and our ability to help free them from some of the work around financial automation, our ability to take some of that work off of their plate gives them more time back to solving the thing that they got into business to solve. And so I think that responsibility to use their time well, to deliver more ROI to them in terms of their time and energy, like that is a bar that we all hold high. And I think, spending time with these SMBs, hearing their stories is just fuel for the passion that exists within the organization to serve and to help.
So when you talk about their stories, and I think that's such a compelling way to look at it, and another way in which both they're overwhelmed and we in the marketing customer experience world are overwhelmed. There are so many touch points in approaching work. How do you ensure that you are creating meaningful touch points for those customers and their stories and not just more noise?
It's something we think a lot about. And I talk a lot about every engagement that we have with a customer, whether that's an email in their inbox or a sales conversation. Our job is to deliver, to delight and to deliver an experience that makes them wanting more. They feel like they have gotten more from that experience than they gave of their time. And so, whether again, we talk about it with something as simple as an email. Like, if I am going to uh, capture your time and get you to open an email, I've got to deliver something that is valuable, that is insightful, that is clear and concise. And that orientation, I think, across the entire journey of a customer is where you really build trust over time, where you really build the customer walking away from those experiences feeling like, oh, they know me. They know me. They know they're listening to me because they're responding by the way that they're delivering content or in engaging with me. And it really is a two-way conversation. I think one of the things that if I think about, the discipline of marketing, I think one of the things that has changed so dramatically and is continuing to change is nothing is one way anymore. It is all two way. And for companies, for brands who get that right, it is an incredible unlock, not just in terms of, sort of your day to day, but how you build enduring relationships with your customers over time.
On Brand, we'll be right back after this.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Christy Heiler hosts a fantastic podcast called Own It. Christy, tell us more about the show.
Own It is all about celebrating women and non-binary advertising agency owners. We talk about buying out of the Boys Club of Advertising because less than 1% of ad agencies are owned by women.
And where can people subscribe?
You can find the podcast at untilyouownit.com. We're also on the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net. And of course, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe. You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe.
Now, back to the show. So we were talking earlier about the selection of customer as a key angle of focus, and there's two other words that also start with C that usually brings through that we talk a lot about, and that's creating connections, fostering community. These are things that, like customer centricity, are sort of easy to nod along with, but much harder to actually do. When it comes to those that are busy and not just creating more noise, what does creating community for SMBs out there look like from a platform of a brand like Bill?
Such a good question. I will tell you a quick anecdote, and then I will answer your question. I had the opportunity to run my own small business for a while earlier in my career, and one of the things that I found that I yearned for was connection. I was here I was, starting a business, getting faced with all sorts of things that I had no idea how to solve. I didn't have the practical experience, and so I was doing these things for the first time. And not that everyone has that same journey, but that feeling of wanting to be able to connect with others who have maybe done the same thing or solved a problem, or even just to, to sometimes commiserate with, I yearned for. And so I think for Bill, as we think about what that connection and community looks like, there are lots of sort of individual touch points, but what we look for are opportunities where we can bring someone in to and create a sense of being part of a collective. Our network on the platform, we've got over 5.5 million entities that are connected to the network. And so that's, a macro view of sort of the world and the community. But on the micro level, things like bringing customers together to have a conversation, things like sharing insights from others through case studies, things like bringing customers into help us shape how we build features and products. Like, those are all ways that we think about creating moments of community and then scaling those by virtue of the work that we do. And it's an area I'm super passionate about, because I think there are so many more ways that we have an opportunity to help build community and to be part of communities where these SMBs operate. SMBs are our friends, our neighbors. And so I think there's so much more opportunity on that front for us that I'm excited about.
Well, I love that you shared that, and I love how you shared that with your own experience. That was going to be my next question, because, what a privilege, because so often, and it comes up here on the show all the time, of understanding your customers as much as you can, and like, short of going out there and doing that, uh, it can be hard. But you, as a small business owner, have actually done that. Are there other aspects or insights from your own experience as a small business owner that you've brought with you, especially given this new focus on the customer, of understanding what might work best and when?
I think a lot about everything that we do, whether it's a touch point or an engagement, or again, a conversation, leading with what their problem is, leading with whatever or opportunity. It's not always a problem, sometimes it's an opportunity, but leading with the thing that matters most to the customer, letting them be the center of attention, and then we follow with our ability to help address whatever that opportunity might be. So I think the starting orientation, and why I say that is from my own sort of lived experience. When I think about vendors or partners or other folks I sort of came in contact with, when they led with being invested in my growth, when they led with a value first orientation, you feel it. You feel it as a customer, and I aspire and want our customers to feel that too, because that, I believe, is how you build trust. It's how I believe you create the relationships where you earn the right to do more with a customer, and you also earn the the trust to know when maybe you've hit a bump, and somebody gives you feedback, and then you take that and you make yourself better. I think that leading with the customer is a starting point that good things come from.
You've given us so much to think about, especially with this transition to a greater focus on the customer, and as you just said, leading with that. And you phrase all of this so eloquently in your article on the Bill website that we'll link up to in our show notes over at onbrandpodcast.com. But for folks that are listening that are feeling inspired of, that is a switch, a flip in focus that we should consider. What might be one thing we could do differently, or a simple start to greater customer centricity?
It's a great question. I go back to, I'm going to go back in my career just a tiny bit. When I had the opportunity to start my career early on in my career in retail, one of the things that I had the opportunity to experience so firsthand was literally being in the moment with a customer when they were trying to find a product on a shelf, or they were trying to figure out which product was right for the thing that they were trying to do. And I think that orientation around customer insight is incredibly powerful. And so if you think about your next meeting, if you think about your next project, if you think about, the next sort of opportunity that comes forward in whatever kind of company you are, just asking the question, what's the customer insight that is informing this conversation? And even by asking the question, sometimes the answer might be, well, we've got 1,000. Sometimes the answer might be, oh, well, we're trying to solve it because of, this department and this department. And it's like, no, what's the customer insight that's going to make this solution the right one? It is incredibly powerful to change your starting point. And it's pretty easy to implement.
Yet another example of asking better questions and asking them at the right time being a great start. Well said. Well, with a greater focus on customer, we can get to what you were talking about earlier with being able to surprise, delight through community, through touch points. And this is a great lead in for me getting to ask you, Sarah, for a brand that has made you smile recently.
If you could see me, I have a big smile on my face, because I get to spend a lot of time with customers, and so there are so many. But I'll pick one. It's kind of like picking your favorite child, but I'll pick one. So Glamnetic. I had Anne, the co-founder of Glamnetic, or I had the two co-founders in the office recently, and got to talk to them about their journey and their challenges. And I think Glamnetic has done, and I give a lot of credit to Anne, one of the co-founders, very early on, and the business has had incredible success and growth, but very early on, she talks about how she engaged directly with everybody who placed an order. She would talk to them about the product they were buying. She would use that to provide feedback on product development. She calls them the Glam Fam, and it's such a sort of wonderful way of talking about how community can help people feel like they are connected in a way that's bigger than themselves. And I'm replaying the conversation we had, and I think when we had the conversation, I had a giant smile on my face because I was like, "Oh, that's magic." So Glamnetic.
Well, what a great smile story, and yet another example of customer centricity, community, and everything that we've been talking about here on this episode. Sarah, where can folks go to learn more about who you are and what you do?
I'm on LinkedIn, not just because I worked there a while ago, but I am on LinkedIn, as are most folks these days. And I try and share stories of customers, share content and things that I find interesting and insightful. And so following me there is probably a good place.
Awesome. Love LinkedIn, and not just saying that because you used to work there. So we will link up to that as well as your article over at onbrandpodcast.com. Sarah Acton, thanks for being on brand with us.
Nick, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
On Brand is part of the Marketing Podcast Network. If you like what you're hearing, if we've made you smile, you can always listen free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your favorite platform may be. And please take a moment and rate and review the podcast to help others find the show. Until next week, I'm Nick Westergaard, and I'll see you on the internet.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.